Hey there, deep diver. Are you ready for today's deep dive? You sent over this research paper, and it's on something called Bert.
Bert?
Yeah, Bert.
Yeah.
It's all about natural language processing, which, basically means teaching computers to understand us humans.
Right.
And from what I hear, Bert is kind of a rock star in that world.
Absolutely.
So, expert speaker, are you with me on this one?
Oh, yeah. Bert really shook things up in the world of natural language processing.
Okay, so less jargon, more clarity. What is Bert?
So in the simplest terms, Bert is a language model.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's not just trying to guess the next word you're going to type.
Okay.
Imagine reading a sentence where you understand each word based on every other word around it. That's what Bert does.
Wow.
It's trained on mountains of text data to grasp the context of words from all directions.
So instead of reading line by line, it's like Bert is absorbing the whole page at once.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's really something.
The paper did mention something about being bidirectional.
Right.
Does that have something to do with how it processes everything?
That's the heart of Bert's power.
Okay.
Think about trying to understand a word by only looking at the words that come before it.
Okay.
You'd miss out on so much nuance.
Right.
It would be like trying to follow a conversation, but you're only hearing every other word.
Yeah.
Confusing, right?
Totally. You'd probably end up with a very warped sense of the story.
And that's what older models were doing. They were stuck processing text in one direction,
Oh, wow.
which really limited their understanding. But Bert, with its bidirectional approach, can consider all the words surrounding a word, giving it a much richer sense of the meaning.
So it's like how we naturally understand language.
Yes.
Using the whole sentence to get the full picture.
Exactly. The paper even gave this example, the word bank.
Okay.
If you see the sentence, I need to go to the bank to withdraw some money,
Okay.
a regular model might think you're talking about a riverbank.
Because it only sees go to the bank.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Bert sees the whole sentence, including withdraw and money, and instantly knows you're talking about a financial institution.
So context is king. This is already blowing my mind,
Yep.
and we're just getting started. This paper also mentioned Bert being used for things like question answering
Right.
and analyzing how people feel in text sentiment.
And an analysis, yeah.
How does that work if it's just reading text?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Bert has this incredible ability to be fine-tuned for specific tasks.
Okay.
It's like having a star athlete who can then focus their skills on a particular sport.
Right.
They're already in amazing shape,
Yeah.
but that targeted training takes them to a whole new level.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, so it's like Bert learns the basics of language first and then becomes a specialist.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But how does this fine-tuning actually work? Walk me through it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's say we're talking about question answering.
Okay.
Remember that squad challenge that was mentioned in the paper?
Yeah.
You give Bert a chunk of text and a question about it,
Okay.
just like you would a person.
Right.
But instead of crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, we add a little something extra to Bert.
Oh.
We train it to pinpoint the exact words in the text that answer the question.
So you're basically giving Bert reading comprehension exercises,
Yeah,
highlighting the answers.
exactly. And the really cool part is that we're not messing with Bert's core language skills during this process.
Okay.
We're just giving it specialized tools to use what it already knows for a specific job.
Okay. That makes sense for questions with concrete answers, but what about analyzing sentiment? You can't exactly highlight a feeling in a paragraph, can you?
Right, you're right. Sentiment analysis is all about understanding the emotion behind the words.
Yeah.
Is it positive, negative, neutral?
Right.
So instead of pinpointing specific words, we fine-tune Bert to look at the entire text and just tell us what the overall feeling is.
So with question answering, we're looking for a precise piece of information. But with sentiment analysis, it's like getting a read on the vibe.
You got it.
Okay.
And the beauty of Bert is that we can use the same base model for both tasks
Wow.
and a whole bunch of others
Okay.
with incredible results.
Speaking of incredible results, the paper mentioned Bert outperforming other models, sometimes by a huge margin.
Yeah.
What makes it so good at what it does?
Well,
What's its secret sauce?
well, one key ingredient is how it's trained.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Bert looking at all the surrounding words for context?
Yeah.
The training takes that a step further with something called a masked language model.
Okay.
Imagine covering up random words in a book and asking Bert to guess them based on what's around them.
Huh.
That's essentially what's happening during training.
Okay.
forcing it to develop a really deep understanding of language.
So it's like Bert is playing a giant game of Mad Libs,
Yeah.
but instead of just being silly, it's building up serious language skills.
Right.
That's wild.
It really is remarkable. And this training method, along with its ability to process tons of data,
Right.
makes Bert incredibly powerful and adaptable.
This is all so impressive. It really feels like Bert is a massive leap forward in getting computers to understand us better.
It really is.
It makes you wonder, what does this mean for the future?
Yeah.
Are we on the verge of computers that can actually think like humans?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While Bert is light years ahead of what we had before, it's important to remember it's not thinking like a human,
Right.
at least not yet.
Exactly. Bert is amazing at spotting patterns in language
Okay.
and making really good predictions based on all the data it's been fed.
But it's not really understanding the meaning behind those patterns the way we do.
So it's like a superpowered parrot.
Yes.
It can mimic and use language in incredibly sophisticated ways,
Yeah.
but it doesn't truly grasp the concepts behind the words.
That's a great analogy. Bert can write you a grammatically flawless essay on any topic,
Wow.
but it doesn't truly get the ideas it's writing about.
Okay.
It doesn't have emotions,
Right.
personal experiences,
Yeah.
or that uniquely human ability to reason abstractly.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. But the paper did mention Bert beating humans at certain tasks.
Right.
How is that even possible if it's not as smart as us?
That's where things get really interesting, pretty. Bert can actually outperform us on very specific tasks,
Okay.
especially those involving finding information
Right.
or recognizing patterns in text. But that's mostly because it can process mountains of data much faster than any human ever could.
Ah.
It's like having a super-powered research assistant who can scan a library in seconds and pull out the exact information you need.
So it's not that Bert is smarter, it's that it has a different kind of intelligence,
Yeah.
optimized for specific tasks.
Precisely.
Hmm.
It excels in areas where speed, accuracy, and massive data crunching are key.
Right.
But when it comes to true understanding, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence,
Mm.
humans are still top dog.
That is fascinating. So where do we go from here? What does Bert's success mean for the future of language processing?
That's the question that has everyone in the field buzzing with
Yeah.
excitement and maybe a little bit of trepidation. Bert has opened up a whole new world of possibilities. We can expect to see even more sophisticated language models
Oh.
that can handle even more complex tasks.
Wow.
This could change everything from
Yeah.
how we interact with our devices
Right.
to how we translate languages, analyze data, and even create art.
It sounds like we're on the brink of a whole new era. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It had.
We've gone from zero to Bert in just a few minutes. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners who might be feeling a little overwhelmed or maybe even inspired by all of this?
I think the most important takeaway is that the future of language processing isn't about machines replacing humans.
Okay.
It's about creating tools that augment our abilities,
Right.
help us understand the world better,
Yeah.
and maybe even push the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Beautifully said. If you're listening and your brain is still buzzing from this deep dive, head over to our website or social media and tell us what's got you thinking. And until next time, happy diving.